Ready?
How you doing, bud?
Good morning. Good morning. My name is John McGeary. I'm the Industry Vice President for the PGA Golf Exhibitions. Wanted to thank everybody for coming out today. Thanks for attending the opening ceremony. For all of you who went to demo night last night, thank you for coming out. I especially want to take a moment to thank Hank Haney for making the trip out from Texas from his facility there to do our keynote opening speech today. Hank doesn't need much introduction. As you know, he's taught over 200 professionals from the PGA, the LPGA, one of the best instructors in the world. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce today's keynote speaker, Hank Haney. Thank you, Hank.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Everybody hear me all right? Good. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here today. This is a great event, and it's nice to see so many of you here so early. So I assume you're anxious to hear what I say. I know that as a PGA golf professional, and I've been a PGA professional well, I started in the business, I think, like in 1978, so it's a long time ago. But the thing that I've always enjoyed the most about being a PGA pro is being able to share your thoughts and ideas with other pros. I remember the first time that I went to a PGA business school, and I was there to learn about golf and learn about teaching, and I said to myself, if I ever have an opportunity where anybody would ever want to listen to me, I'm going to try to, make it a point to speak as many times as I can. So it's something that I've always enjoyed. I spend a lot of my time training golf professionals, especially the ones that work for me at my various facilities. I mean, golf has been just absolutely incredible to me. I mean, when I think about the experiences I've had, the life experiences, the golf experiences, and really everything that's happened to me, that's been so great, and so much of it is because of golf, and in particular, so much of it has been because of teaching golf. I mean, I started off just as somebody who loved the game of golf, and I thought when I was in college, I thought, you know what, I want to be a teacher. I want to teach golf. I want to help people, and I really got inspired when I was not working?
Unless I can move your thing down.
We had a little malfunction. So, did they hear anything somewhere?
That was my fault. Try that.
All right. It wasn't sounding very loud, but I was trying my best there. Okay. The good news is if that would have worked, it would have been one of the first times ever that it worked, of all these talks I've ever done. So anyway. Did you hear anything I said at the beginning, or you want me to start over again? You guys got it? Okay. Well, anyway, I'm happy to be with you. It's my pleasure anytime I get to talk about golf. You know, I was inspired to be a golf professional when I first started taking lessons, when I was in college, and Jim Hardy was a teacher, and I saw how much he enjoyed teaching the game. I saw how much he enjoyed passing along information and seeing people do better. And honestly, I think that's the thing that really inspired me to want to be a golf instructor, to want to be a PGA golf instructor. And obviously, as a golf instructor, our main goal is to try to help make the game of golf better, to help grow the game. And that's something that we're all very much aware of now. I mean, everyone kind of knows the numbers and the focus of the PGA and Golf 2.0, and trying to get more people involved in the game. 10 years ago we had 30 million golfers. Now we have like 26 million in the United States. So the number of golfers that have gone down, the number of rounds of golf have gone down every year for the last 5 years. It seems to have been stabilized now, and obviously we're all involved in the game of golf. We all like to see it grow. We see that it's growing internationally, and I'm involved with that too. I mean, I've had an incredible opportunity in China. I just opened an academy at the Mission Hills facility on Hainan Island in China, and we have 11 golf courses at one facility. So I know golf is definitely growing worldwide. We all know that there's so much interest in the game. I mean, the studies show that there's 90 million people in the United States have played golf, and a lot of them, got away from the game. They say there's like 60 million people that have gotten away from the game, but they all kind of express some interest in getting back to the game and playing. And there's another 20 million people that have said that I'd like to try golf. So the game of golf has a lot of room for growth. It has a lot of room for improvement. And there's many different things that you can look at when you look at why golf hasn't grown as much in the last few years and why it's been declining. Obviously, we have people entering the game, but we also have a lot of people leaving the game. So every year there's this turnover, and it kind of equals out, or we're in a little bit of a decline. But the main thing is you have to look and you have to say, okay, what could we do better? What could we do to help make the game better? What could we do to grow the game? And really, when you break it all down, everybody kind of looks and they have three areas that they kind of talk about with why golf hasn't grown or isn't growing in the United States. One, that obviously it's a very expensive sport. And there's, those are things that are kind of built into the game. I mean, it's expensive to maintain golf courses. The equipment is expensive. But then again, if you would really look and say that, we don't have to have the golf courses looking like the greatest country club in the world. If you go look and you see where golf started over in Scotland, sometimes their golf courses in the summer don't look too great, but people still enjoy playing them. It doesn't cost as much to maintain them, and that keeps the price of the game down. A lot of times new golf equipment is incredibly expensive, but used golf equipment, is very good too. And there's ways to get around the expense of the game. And I think one of the things, I'm a golf course, not only am I a teacher, that's what I've done my whole career, but I've had the opportunity to manage and own a lot of different golf facilities. I have 4 teaching facilities in Dallas. I have a 9-hole golf course in Dallas. I have an 18-hole public golf course in Texarkana, which is in East Texas. And I have a junior academy in Hilton Head where we have 150 kids from 31 different countries. So I'm kind of involved in all these different parts of the game of golf. But the one thing that I see is that when you look at people who manage golf, is that they need to be more innovative. They need to be more thinking outside the box. One of the ways that they can do that is to fill up their golf courses. And when you look at some of the models that they use in other reservation type activities, like taking an airplane or booking a hotel or a rental car, anything like that, a lot of times when there's space available, they reduce the price and they fill that course up. It's something that we really haven't done in golf. You go to a golf course and it could be full or it could be empty, and it costs the same thing to play it. And that's one of the things that I'm experimenting with at my golf course, and I'm seeing some very good results with it. I'm seeing that we can make the game less expensive because there's times when I'm not making any money when there's nobody out there. So there's things you can do with that part of the game. Obviously, the game of golf is not only expensive, but it's incredibly hard to play, and that is probably the thing that when you look at it, it's the thing that I think is the biggest factor that inhibits people from wanting to play the game. Now the other factor obviously is it takes a lot of time, and we're doing things that try to speed the game up. I think some of the new initiatives where people talk about having a 6-hole round of golf or a 9-hole round of golf, these are all good things. And I see some alternative ways to be involved in the game. When I think back, most beginners, their first introduction to the game of golf is miniature golf. They go a lot of people have never golfed, but they've all played miniature golf. Well, now, one of the things that I see is there's a lot of golfers that just go to a driving range. I see this when I go to Asia, when I go to Japan, when I go to Korea. A lot of people don't golf a lot, but they go to the range and they hit balls. I see the same thing in my hometown in Dallas, Texas. We have 2 top golf facilities. And I don't know if you guys are aware of that, what those facilities do, but it's basically a way to play golf at a driving range. You hit the targets and you get different point values, and these places are packed. I mean, they are doing such incredible business. I mean, it has shocked me, the business that they're doing and the amount of people that want to be involved in golf, and this is a way to do it where it doesn't take as much time. So there's certain things you can do. You know, obviously I think the PGA Tour has a responsibility to try and play faster because the pace of play is an issue. And when golfers see that how long it takes to play, well, you know, it's a detriment to them wanting to play the game. I know yesterday I was in St. Louis doing an outing, and one of the ladies that was helping me, she was actually the photographer, and she plays golf and just once in a while. And the biggest comment she has is, it just takes too much time for me to play. So everybody has a reason why they don't play more golf. But I think when it's all said and done, the most important reason and the biggest reason is always that the game of golf is incredibly hard. It's a hard game to play. It's a hard game to teach. And if you can overcome that part, if you can get people where they can hit the ball, they can enjoy the game more, they're going to want to play more. And it's just really as simple as that. I know that in the last couple of years, I've been working with a friend of mine. His name's Mike Melvin, and Mike is the CEO and owner of Discovery Land Company. They have 16 golf courses in the United States. And Mike had 16 golf courses, but he didn't play golf. The reason he didn't play golf is because he was so bad. Now, he wasn't Charles Barkley bad, but he was just like coming right up behind Charles. It was pretty close, okay? And he had lessons from every pro at every one of his 16 golf courses. And he still couldn't play golf. I mean, he couldn't hit the ball 100 yards in the air. And finally, one of his assistants asked me, he said, "Hank, would you help Mike?" And I said, "I'll help him, but if I help him, I don't want anybody else helping him. I don't mind helping him. I'll get him over the hump. I'll get him playing the game. But if I start to help him, nobody else can help him." Because, you know, one thing that happens with golf instruction is it tends to get too confusing. People complicate it, and when you start listening to too many people, it becomes very, very difficult. So I spent time helping Mike, but you know, as much as I've taught, and I've given 55,000 golf lessons, so I've given a lot of golf lessons, but it's never easy. And he was a tough student. It was tough to get him to hit it, but I spent a lot of time helping him, and now, you know, he plays golf all the time. But that took about a year to get him there. He was an exceptional case. He wasn't very good at all, but it took about a year to get him. But now he's an incredible golf consumer. I mean, he buys clubs. He plays golf all the time. He plays golf on vacation. He buys, you know, the clothes. He buys the shoes. He's somebody that's gone from barely being a participant to being an incredible participant in golf. He plays all the time. So I think that one of the biggest areas, it's not just getting more people into the game, but it's getting the people who are in the game of golf to play more. I mean, I think, to me, you know, that's the kind of low-hanging fruit. That's where you can take somebody that's there, they already like the game, but everybody wants to play better. When people say, you know, "Oh, I just play once in a while," you know, what they're really saying is, in a lot of cases, is, "I'm not very good, and yes, it's fun to be outside, and it's fun to hang out with my friends, but I'm so bad that, you know, I only want to do it once in a while." When they say, you know, golf's really expensive, what they're also saying is that, you know, I've got certain other things that I can do, and with my free time and with my expendable, money that I have to use for recreation or whatever. But you know what? I'm so bad at golf, it's not my first choice. When they say, golf takes a lot of time, what they say is that, rather than go play 9 holes terrible, I'd rather go do something else. So a lot of the excuses that you get, I believe, are due to the fact that the game is just so hard. It's hard to learn, it's hard to teach. I think there's certain things that we can do to, make the game easier for people. One is the rules of golf. They're hard to understand, and it's a hard game, and it's made harder, by the rules. I personally believe that you have to think outside the box. I don't see anything wrong with having 2 different sets of rules. One for the tournaments and one for the amateur golfer that's just trying to have fun. You already have that to a certain extent. I go to golf courses and I see people, hit a ball into the waist area, which is technically a lost ball. They're supposed to hit from the tee, but they have a local rule where they just drop up there and they take a penalty there. So you already kind of see this. I mean, gimmies aren't part of tournament golf, but people do it all the time. So it's not like everybody strictly plays by one set of rules anyways. So I think that's something that if we looked at, could definitely help the game. I think letting the manufacturers make equipment that makes the game easier for people is something that definitely would help grow the game. To the extent that manufacturers could make equipment that would be easier for people to hit. Obviously, through the years, equipment's gotten better. It's easier to hit. It's easier to get the golf ball up in the air. But the more that manufacturers could be allowed to do that, I don't see how that doesn't help the game. Right now they're talking about banning the belly putter and banning the long putter. Basically, they're talking about banning the anchoring. When you look at that and you think, that the USGA and the RNA, I think they feel like their role is to protect the history of the game. And that's a very, obviously good and noble cause. But I also think that it's everyone's goal to try to make golf a better game and to grow the game of golf. So for instance, when you're taking and you're banning these putters where you can't anchor, what you're doing is you're hurting the person who's already really struggling, because that method of putting, if you will, the anchoring, is really born from the fact that a lot of people, when they putt, and I've tested over 5,000 people with putting, and 26% of all the people that we tested had the yips when they putt. They had this wiggle in their stroke. And that affects a lot of golfers. Almost every single person you see with an alternative style, even the professionals on the tours, when they have a long putter, a belly putter, they have a saw grip, a claw grip, a left-hand low grip, whatever alternative style they have, they are usually people who have had the yips. Sometimes when they're incredibly severe yippers, they can't make it from this far. And I've seen them many, many, many times. Now, if somebody can't make a putt from 6 inches or a foot, they're not going to want to play a lot of golf. So now when you take away their method that they've used, which is the belly putter, the long putter, that's helped them to enjoy the game. It's helped them to play more golf. It's helped them to have more fun. And now you take that away from them. To me, I don't really see how that's going to help grow the game of golf. And I can understand that what Ernie Els said. He said, as long as they're going to let you cheat, I'm just going to cheat. So he'd use that belly putter. I mean, a lot of people feel the same way. That it's not right. You shouldn't be able to anchor the putter. But to me, that's another vote for having 2 sets of rules, because you have to allow people the opportunity to play the game, to enjoy the game. And if the only way somebody can be a golfer, and the only way they can enjoy themselves, and the only way they can be a golf consumer is to anchor the putter, then it's kind of a shame that they want to take that away from them. But when it's all said and done, you add up all these different areas, they'll all have, incremental effects on growing the game of golf. The number one thing you have to do to grow the game of golf is the game has to be taught better. It's very, very hard to teach. And I sympathize with every golf professional that teaches a game, because it is hard. And so many times when I'm teaching, I wish I had a magic wand. And I always tell people, if I had that magic wand, I'd wave it right over your head right now. But unfortunately, I don't have one. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes hard work. I've seen it on my television shows, the Haney Project. Sometimes I have good success, sometimes I don't. Charles Barkley wasn't my shining moment in teaching, okay? He was tough. But you know what? I finally figured out something that can help him. I turned him around and made him a left-hander. And now all of a sudden he doesn't have that wiggle. So he doesn't have that hitch, and he can now get out there and he can actually hit the ball. And he can enjoy the game. And now he wants to play more. So with teaching, you have to figure out how you can make things happen. You have to figure out a way. I knew that I had to teach better when I had Rush Limbaugh on my show, because I knew that no matter what, I couldn't turn him around and make him a left-hander. Okay, some of you guys are a little slow, okay? That's a little test, see? That's a little test, but some of you are better than others on that one. Actually, when we first started, Rush had this big, huge slice, and I said to him, Rush, we got to get that ball going more to the left. I said, you can't play with that big slice you got. I said, we got to get that ball hooking more to the left. He said, Hank, nothing good ever happens on the left. And I said, well, in golf it does, because you got to fix that slice. 90% of the people that play golf slice. They slice to the right, and they don't play very well. Average handicap for a male golfer is about 16.5. For a female golfer, it's more like 28. And 90% of the people that play golf slice. So, I always say that if there's a road that you take to playing good golf, nowhere on that road is there a slice. When you look at what you need to do to help people play better golf, what you need to do to teach people to play better golf, first and foremost, the most important thing is you have to be able to diagnose the situation. You have to diagnose their game, you have to diagnose what they're doing, you have to diagnose their equipment, how they think, how they play the game. It's the same thing if you wanted to get better at anything you do, it doesn't matter what it is in life, but you always start off first with the diagnosis. After you make a diagnosis, you have to make a plan. And that's one thing through my whole career, I've always had a plan. I started off as an assistant pro in Tulsa, Oklahoma after I got done with college. And in college, I majored in education because I knew I wanted to teach. But I immediately became an assistant pro. And then I worked my way up to being a teacher. And then I had the great opportunity to work with the John Jacobs Golf Schools. And then I was at Pinehurst Hotel and Country Club. And then I was the director of golf at Sweetwater Country Club in Houston. And then PGA West, and then to Dallas, and I've had all these incredible opportunities, and not the least of which was the opportunities to work with over 200 touring pros, and certainly not the least of which was the opportunity to work with Tiger Woods. That was incredible. But it always happened because I had a plan. A lot of people have a goal. But I always say, a goal without a plan is nothing but a dream. And most people have a dream of being better at something. They have a dream of being a better golfer. They have a dream of being a better business person. They have a dream of being a better coach. They have a dream of being a better teacher, but they don't have a plan. If you don't have a plan, then all you have is a dream. So the most important thing that I think of when I think of my career, and people ask me, Hank, how have you been successful in teaching? The number one thing is I've always had a plan. I've always had a plan. And the first thing you have to start with is you have to start with the diagnosis. Specifically, when you're teaching golf and you think about what you need to do to help your students get better. There are really, certain levels of the game that you kind of start off at and you work towards. First thing is, every golfer goes out and they just want to hit the ball. Just please let me hit it. I just want to make it go somewhere. Then they want to get the ball in the air. Then they want to make it go somewhere, hopefully farther than they thought they could. Then they need to be able to control the direction that it's going. So now they've got it going somewhere, but they want to be able to find it. And then the next thing you learn to control is the trajectory that you can hit the ball, because some days it's really windy and you have to hit the ball a little lower. And then the next thing you learn is you learn how to work the ball not only up and down, but you learn to work the ball left and right. So those are the stages that you go through learning the game. The first part is just hit the ball. So when I start off, and I teach beginners, and we've been doing beginners, low price beginner lessons forever at my academies, and it's been a great way to get people into the game and to bring us more customers. We start off first, and we always get the students to hit the ball. Some people will say, should you start off when you start a beginner off with putting, or should you start off with chipping? I always start off with full swing, because people have already probably putted. They've putted when they did, the miniature golf, but they don't really consider that to be golf. When you ask people, are you a golfer? Nobody says, well, I'm a miniature golfer. They're either a golfer or they're not a golfer. And if they golf, that means they've hit a ball and they've got the ball in the air. That's what they consider golf to be. So I want people to see as soon as they can that, hey, I can do this. I can play golf. I can actually hit the ball. And the look on their faces and the feeling that they get shows you that, I can derive some enjoyment from this game. I think I can play. So many people start off and they don't have success. And when they don't have success, immediately they doubt themselves and they doubt their teacher. And when they do that, then they gravitate away from the game of golf. They gravitate away from the game of golf. They say there's 60 million people that have gravitated away from the game of golf. Those people need to come back to the game of golf. But in order to do that, they have to get better. The problem is only half of the people who play golf have ever taken a golf lesson. And of those 50% of the people that have ever taken a golf lesson, only 20% of those people went back for a second lesson. Now, every year that I've been teaching golf, I've been lucky enough for my business to grow. And in the last few years, my business has grown. When the golf business has been going like this, and the economy has been like this, my business has been going like this. Now, a lot of that is due to the fact that I had a plan. But some of it is certainly due to the fact that myself and the teachers that I've trained at my facilities get results. And when they get results, people come back. The reason why only less than 20% of the people have come back and taken a second lesson is very simple. Because the first lesson wasn't very good. And that's hard for people to understand. It's hard for people to accept. But it's just the way it is. Because if people have success, they're going to want to come and do it again. So when I teach golf, the things that I look at, the things to me that are the most important things, there are 3 things that you have to do to play good golf. I don't care what level of the game you're at. You could be the best player in the world. You could be an absolute beginner. There's 3 things and 3 things only you need to do to play good golf. The first thing you need to do is you need to eliminate your big miss. You have to eliminate your big miss. Golf is such a hard game. When you swing the club, that needs to count as 1. You cannot take one swing, hit the ball out of bounds, now you got to hit again, and now you lie 3. You have to eliminate your big miss. You have to eliminate penalty shots. Nobody can play good golf taking penalty shots. So when you swing, it goes out of bounds, you got to hit again. Now you've lost the ball and you've added 2 strokes to your score. 2 negatives that aren't going to want to make you come out and play again tomorrow. So the first thing you have to do is eliminate. Even the best players in the world, you think back to the Masters tournament this year. Phil Mickelson lost the ball on number 10 to the left, had to hit again from the tee, basically a 2-shot penalty. On number 4 on Sunday, hit it in the bushes, couldn't get it out, basically another 2-shot penalty situation. That's 4 penalty shots. He missed the playoff by 1 stroke. So even at the highest level of the game, penalty shots will always kill you. And that's why after all these years of teaching golf and all these lessons I've given, I have a very simple definition for a good tee shot. A good tee shot is any one you can find. Okay? For most people, a good tee shot is any one you can find. If you can find it, it's not that bad. At least you didn't have to hit again. At least you've only swung 1 time and you only lie 1. So you have to eliminate penalty shots. You have to eliminate your big miss. The next thing you have to do to play good golf is you have to eliminate what I call 2 chips. 2 chips, 2 pitches, 2 sand shots. Anytime you're in close proximity to the green, you have to learn to get the ball on the green in 1 shot. So when I'm teaching, that's my first goal. How can I get my student to get the ball on the green in 1 shot? And a lot of times what that means is when they're off the green, they need to putt. I mean, after all these years of teaching, I've been teaching golf for 35 years, I figured out the best way to teach chipping. I don't. They putt. And whenever they can putt, they putt. And they can get that ball on the green and they're on in 1 shot. When they're in the sand trap, they need to get out and on the green in 1 shot. I got an email the other day or a text from Ray Romano, and he was on one of my shows. And Ray's goal was to break 80. That was the goal in the show. And when I started the show, they said Ray's a 12 handicap. So I said, well, if he's a 12 handicap, I can get him to break 80. All I got to do, I can just walk him around the golf course and tell him what to do, and I can get him to break 80. So we went out the first time. Ray's a 12 handicap. We went out the first time, and I was just going to evaluate his game. I'm not going to take credit for his score because I hadn't told him anything yet. And we went out and played. And at the end, I added up his score, and he shot 117. Now, I said to his guy, I said, he's not a 12. And they go, yeah, he's a 12. I said, no, he's not. He's like a 25, maybe. No, he's a 12. I said, no, he's not a 12. He's a 25. They go, well, come to think of it, I can't remember the last time he broke 90. And I'm like, what kind of 12 handicap can't remember the last time he broke 90? But I added up his score, and I thought to myself, okay, he shot 117. But he hit like 8 balls out of bounds and 4 balls in the water. And that's 20 shots right there. So now you're down to 97, right off the bat. Boom. And then when he was around the green, he stubbed 4 chips, and he left it in the bunker twice, and that's 8 shots, and now you're down to 89. And then the third thing you have to do to play good golf is you have to eliminate 3 putts. You don't have to make putts, but you have to eliminate 3 putts. And Ray they said putting was the best part of his game. He had 5 3 putts. And that wasn't the bad news because he had 2 4 putts. Okay? So that's the equivalent of 9 3 putts. And when you add that up right away, now you start adding it up, and you know what? He's at 80. We're all the way down to 80 right now. I said, Ray, it's doable. Believe it or not, it's doable. All we got to do is we got to clean up the mess. So whenever I see a golfer that gets done with a round of golf, the first thing I ask them is, how many penalty shots did you have? How many 2 chips did you have? How many 3 putts did you have? And when I subtract those from his scorecard, I know what his scoring potential was if he would have just cleaned up the mess. So Ray's still trying to break 80. The other day he texted me. He said, I'm 156 yards from the hole, and if I par the last hole, it's a par 4, I'm 156 yards away. If I par the last hole, I shoot 79. And then there was this long wait for the next text. And finally it came, and I looked at it. And he says, I hit it in the trap and I couldn't get out. And he shot 82. But I thought to myself, well, the pursuit continues. But at least he made the cut at Pebble Beach, which was one of his main goals was to make the cut in that tournament. But all you have to do is those three things. Those are the three areas that I look at whenever I'm teaching golf. It's a very simple approach, and so many times in golf instruction in particular, people have a way of trying to make it more complex. The simpler things are, the more people will gravitate towards it. The more complicated things are, the more they tend to run away from it. And I've seen this so many times in teaching. And when I was giving my clinic yesterday to 120 people, I try to keep it just as simple as I possibly can. I try to give them just one or two thoughts that could help their specific situation. And it's all directly related to what the golf ball is when they're hitting it and where it's going. Because golf is all about what the ball does. There's so many times when you hear about this method and that method, and people talk about your body needs to do this and your body needs to do that, and you need to do this and you need to do that. But golf is all about what the ball does. All you have to do is make the ball do something better. If the ball does something better, then your student is going to play better golf, they're going to shoot lower scores, they're going to enjoy it more. That's all you have to do. So I had one of my students yesterday at my clinic. He said he had been away from golf for 20 years. He'd been away from golf for 20 years. And now he was back playing. He's taken a lesson once a week for the last 2 months. And he teed off, and he had an 80-yard slice. 80-yard slice. Ball lost over into the bushes. And to contrast that, I did an article last year for Golf Digest. And the point of the article was, I said, I can fix anybody's slice in 5 minutes. And Golf Digest, we had 100 people come. And we had all these people line up on the range, and we put a TrackMan out there, and we analyzed the fact that, yes, they all are slicers. And I said, okay, we're going to give them all this lesson. And in 5 minutes, we're going to fix their slice. And every single person hooked the ball. Every single person hooked the ball. So, unfortunately, my friend yesterday has taken a lesson every week for the last 2 months. And he teed off in front of me, had an 80-yard slice. And it's no wonder why only 20% of the golfers go back and take a second lesson. You have to do a better job. And it starts with having a diagnosis. With golf, it's all about what the ball does. Does your ball go to the right or does it go to the left? Does it fly too high or does it fly too low? Or does it fly the right trajectory? Everything, if you think about it, everything in golf falls into threes. There's only, your ball starts right, it starts left, it starts straight. It's too low, it's too high, it's the right trajectory. Your grip is neutral, it's too strong, or it's too weak. Everything in golf falls into threes. So you can, there's a lot of, obviously there's many different combinations. But when you look at any specific area, there are really only three choices. If you're going to get somebody's golf ball to do better, you have to be able to implement a change in something. Either you have to get your mistakes down where you totally eliminate all the mistakes, or you have to get the mistakes where they match up somewhat. So they have a chance to have one mistake compensating for another mistake. And I think to a great extent, that's the essence of teaching. What's the one or two things you could tell somebody that could affect a ball flight change? In teaching, we all use video, and it's helped tremendously with golf instructors and understanding the swing and understanding what they teach. But I think it would shock you to know that in the 6 years that I worked with Tiger Woods, I only videoed him 4 times. There's only 4 times that I ever videoed Tiger in 6 years. Now, it's a different approach, but it's also an approach that led to him winning 45% of his tournaments and finishing top 10 85% of the time the last 3 years that I helped him. I tried to keep it simple, but you know what? I didn't need to video his swing because every time he hit, I saw where the golf ball went. And every time I tried to tell him something that I thought he needed to work on, it was all related to fixing a certain ball flight error. Everything is all about fixing a ball flight error. If you can fix ball flight, you can teach. And the first thing you have to do is you have to be able to diagnose. The biggest problem that teachers have is they have a problem diagnosing and they have a problem making a plan. If you can do those 2 things, you get results every single time because all you have to do is be patient to let your plan work. Just work your plan, and I always take my time. When I first started teaching touring pros, the first pro I ever taught was Mark O'Meara. I was at Pinehurst Hotel and Country Club, and Mark was there. He was struggling. He was 124th on the money list. This was in 1981, he was 124th on the money list. He had 2 tournaments to go before he would have lost his card. And he asked me to watch him, and I stood there and I watched him. And I stood there for 5 or 10 minutes. And finally he looked back at me, he says, "Are you going to say anything?" And I said, "I'm just thinking about what your plan needs to be. Why don't we go down, why don't we go sit down and we'll talk about it." And he said, "I don't have any time to do that." He said, "I'm getting ready to lose my card." I said, "Well, let's talk about your plan. We'll see if you want to do it." And we sat down, we talked. And I told him everything I thought he needed to do. I told him everything about his golf swing and about his ball flight. And I told him what he needed to do to change it. And he said, "Well, let's get to work." And 2 years later, he finished second on the money list on the PGA Tour. He won 2 majors. He won 18 tournaments on the U.S. Tour. He won 25 tournaments overall. He's had arguably a Hall of Fame career. But it all started with me telling him what the plan was. And I did the same thing when I started off with Tiger Woods. Tiger called me and asked me to help him, and I pinched myself. It was the greatest opportunity a coach could ever have. And the first time we got together, he asked me, he said, "What do you think about my game?" And in probably the biggest understatement of all time, I said, "You know what? I think your game's pretty good." And he said, "Well, what do you think I need to do better?" I said, "When I look from the outside looking in, I look and it's hard for me to tell what your plan is. It looks like you know a lot about the swing, you got a lot of great fundamentals, but it's hard for me to see what your plan is." A plan is a step-by-step roadmap that takes you from point A to point Z. You may never make it past B, C, or D, but you have to have a plan that takes you all the way. And that roadmap will work. I always tell the teachers that work for me and the ones that I train, I said, "You guys can go ahead and pioneer. You can try to blaze a trail. But if you'll just do what I do, you'll get the same results that I get." It's a real simple concept. It works for everything. It works in every single aspect of life. If you want to get better at something, find someone who's good at something, find someone who's getting results that you would like to get, and do what they do. If you do the same thing they do, you will get the same results that they get. And it works every single time. So you have this plan. You have this roadmap. The best way to get it, you have to have the proper diagnosis. If you don't have a diagnosis, if you miss on the diagnosis, you can't make a plan. So you have to take your time. And the diagnosis in teaching always starts with what the ball is doing. Where's the golf ball going? Or where isn't it going? Sometimes it's not going. Sometimes they can't even hit it. And that's why I always start off, when I start off with somebody that's a beginner or not a very good golfer, I know that when they come for a lesson, they're going to be a little nervous. So one of the things I'll do is I'll have them take a couple practice swings. If I don't think they're going to be able to hit the ball or hit even a fairly decent shot, I might not even have them hit a ball. I'll have them swing. Let me see you hit that tee first. And I know that if they can hit a tee out of the ground, okay, then we can hit the ball. But I don't start people off putting them in a position to fail. I always put them in a position to succeed. So I never have a student hit a ball until the golf ball is going to look different to them in the air than what they were getting before. That's a key point. So many times when I see lessons being given, first off, the student is hitting and hitting and hitting, and they're just hitting one bad shot after another, and that ball is either giving you confidence or it's giving you doubt. Those are the only two things it can do. It's giving you confidence or it's giving you doubt. And if you're hitting bad shots, it's giving you doubt. So if you haven't affected a change, there's no reason to put the ball there. The ball, I can see with their swing where the ball is going to go. The reason I put the ball there is because I want them to see how they're doing better and see how things are working for them and give them confidence. Give them confidence in themselves, give them confidence in me as an instructor. You only have a small window. And a lot of times what happens in teaching is we use up that window. And once it's gone, it's gone. You know, once you're 10, 15, 20 minutes into that lesson and that student hasn't shown any ball flight improvement, they're doubting themselves and they're doubting you as an instructor. And when that happens, it's hard to turn it around. It's hard to get it turned around. So when you do change somebody, you want them to be able to see the change. That's where the golf ball comes in. The golf ball is for you to be able to diagnose the situation so that you can make a plan. The golf ball is for your student to be able to do the same. And the golf ball also gives your student some confidence so that they can see that actually I'm on the right track. It's all about what the ball does. So when I start somebody off, first thing, let me see him hit that tee. If it's just an absolute beginner and I'm talking about getting somebody into the game, let me see you swing that club. Back over your shoulder here, all the way through over your shoulder there. Let me see you hit the tee out of the ground. Once they can do that, I know they can get the ball. Once they can get the ball, we got the ball hit. Now we just got to make sure we got some loft on the club. Get the ball in the air. I can't tell you how many times I have seen lady golfers who absolutely cannot get the ball in the air, and they are totally helpless because whoever is helping them isn't telling them anything that could possibly help them. Because the biggest mistake and the number one mistake that ladies make when they're starting to play the game, and they're a segment of the game of golf where there's incredible growth potential. But for some reason, when ladies start to play the game of golf, one of the most common things that you see is they swing the club back and their wrist goes like this. Through my career, I have walked up and down, I can't tell you how many driving ranges where I see husbands and boyfriends helping their wives, and the wife is swinging back and her wrist is like that, and the club looks like that at the top of the swing. And I'm thinking to myself, they could stay there forever and they are never going to get a ball in the air, because it is impossible to get a ball in the air with that position at the top of the swing for a lady golfer. And then, you know what happens? I look and I think, you know what I think? I think, you know what? There's a potential golfer that's probably lost forever. There's a potential golfer that's lost forever, because they're not necessarily going to think, well, my husband isn't a good teacher, or this, you know, my boyfriend's not a good teacher, or you know what they're going to think? I'm not made for golf. There's no chance. There's no way I could play golf. It's too hard, and boom, they're gone. So the instruction that you give, that we give, that everyone gives, whether we're just helping a friend or whether we're a PGA pro giving a golf lesson, is so important, and it helps the game grow. It helps all of us in this room, everybody who's exhibiting. I mean, the more people that play golf, the more people that enjoy the game, the more they play, the more they participate, the more they spend, the more clothes they buy, the more clubs they buy. It's all about teaching the game better. And really, it's about improving their ball flight. You know, they talk about the game being expensive. They talk about the game taking too long, but when it's all said and done, to me, it's all about the fact that golf is an incredibly hard game. You look at other sports that have struggled, and skiing is another one in particular that struggled through the years. And skiing is another sport, just like golf, very similar. The learning curve is incredibly steep. But once you get people over that learning curve and you get them over the hump, then now you've got somebody who's going to love the game, who's going to enjoy the game. And it's up to all of us, it's up to all golf instructors and everybody involved in the game of golf to try to make that happen, to try to get that to happen. And certainly, I think that we all can do it. It's obviously, been a lifelong pursuit of mine to try to help people play the game better. There's one thing about golf. I mean, you never stop learning. You never stop trying to improve. I feel like every day I get to teach, every day I get to speak, every day I get to talk about golf. I always learn something. I always feel like I have something new that even if it's just a little different way to pass some information along. Because a lot of times in teaching, that's what's missing. Because the real thing, I think, when you think about teaching, it's not just what you know. Like when I read a lot of things about golf, and when I attend teaching seminars and I go, sometimes I have to be honest with you, I marvel at how much some people know. I can't believe how much some people know. And when I look at it, man, that guy knows a lot more than I know. But, in teaching golf, sometimes it's easier to be simpler. If you can make things easier for people to grasp, a lot of times they're going to enjoy it more and they're going to have more success. So it's not about who's the most complicated. It's about who gets the best results. And when you look at results, remember, it always has to do with the golf ball. Why don't I take a few questions? I think I got just a couple more minutes and time for one or two questions. If there's something I didn't touch on, or if you're in the back, you're going to have to speak up. But what did I do to eliminate 100 people from slicing? Okay, so when you slice the golf ball, the club face is open. It's open relative to the path of your swing. So we know that. So I have to get the path of my swing more to the right, and I have to get the club face more closed relative to the path. Okay, so how do I do that? The first thing is I don't like to give people big, huge corrections in terms of their grip, but if somebody is a chronic slicer, there's certainly nothing wrong with sticking them more on the strong side of their grip. So a little bit more to the right with their grip and softer with their grip pressure, because that will allow their hands to be more active through the swing and gives them a better chance of closing that club face before they get to the golf ball. The next thing is that when you look at a slicer swing, when you come down into the ball on too steep of an angle, you're swinging the golf club on too much of a straight line, your club face always has a tendency to open. So straight line swings that go up and down like this, tend to always open the club face. The most common characteristic that you see for golfers is they take the club back here, they come down like that. They make a loop in their swing. So I thought to myself, rather than taking the club back to the inside like this and then making a loop over the top like that, let me try to get them making the opposite loop. And the way that I started that was I had them make a circle in front of them. I said, when you swing the golf club, you're making a circle that goes basically this way. I want you to reverse that and make a clockwise circle. So I had them just making a circle like this. And this was the first step. I said, just make a circle like this. Now, when the club got over the top of their head, right as the club got over the top of their head, I said, now turn your shoulders. And that immediately has an effect of laying the golf club back. So as they made this circle, they laid the club back, and then I said, now, from there, I want you to swing the club out to 3 o'clock, right there. So you make this circle up like this, and you just get used to making that little loop. And then from there I just modified it. Now I said, okay, now let's just go up here. Go to 12 o'clock. As soon as the club gets over your head, now turn and make that circle there. So I gave them a reverse of the circle that they had. And then I told them, I said, now when you make this circle here and your club gets down here to right at 3 o'clock, let that club go ahead and close and just feel like you close it. And then I just modified it from there. Then the next step was take it up here. And then the next step was take the club back more normal and feel like it goes there. You know, and I've, you know, just like that. Now, I didn't say that every one of those golfers was, you know, improved their handicap, you know, 20 shots. But I did get a lot of people that send me messages on Twitter and told me, you know, hey, my handicap's lowered 10 shots, my handicap lowered 15 shots. You know, I'm not slicing it anymore. I've gained 40 more yards. And that was the purpose of the activity, because that's a big part that all of us start out with teaching. I mean, a lot of teaching today is dictated by touring pro teachers. And they generally teach players who are fighting a hook. If you look at the different ball flights that you have, obviously 90% of people who play golf slice it to the right, they don't play well. Every better player in the history of the game at one time or another has fought a hook to the left. Every better player in the history of the game has fought a hook. If there's a road you take to playing good golf, you go from slicing to hooking to good golf. So the first step you have to be able to do, you know, if you're a golf instructor, you have to be able to fix a slice. I mean, that's just paramount, because that's what you're going to deal with more times than not. And those are the steps that I went to do that, you know, to do it quickly in just a little 5-minute thing. Yeah. Anybody else have a question? We got time for one more question. Oh, a couple more questions? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the question was at Tahoe at the celebrity tournament, Charles Barkley was playing, and he was still attempting right-handed. Now we kind of have a mixed bag. He'll vary between eyes closed to one-handed right-handed, you know. But now we're going left-handed. But one of the ideas I got was, and I have ideas going through my mind all the time about how could I possibly help? Because one of my favorite people in the whole world, one of the most generous people, one of the nicest people, one of my favorite friends that I could ever have. So I mean, if there's anybody that I want to see play golf, it's Charles Barkley. Because you know what? He loves golf, and you know what? Golf loves him. Golf loves him. I mean, after all, who else has had 6 million people go on the internet and look at their golf swing? Okay? Now, granted, most of them were just laughing, but still, golf loves him. So at Tahoe, I put down some wiffle balls. And I put a wiffle ball down and had him hit the wiffle ball, and he made a perfect swing. And then we put the ball down, and he couldn't swing. So people say, is it mental? And and obviously, it has to do with his brain. But to me, it's not mental in the sense that it is a negative thinking or positive thinking kind of thing. It's a neurological problem. It's similar to somebody who has a stutter, or somebody who has a problem with the yips, or somebody who has a problem with, they see people that have writer's cramp where they literally can't get the pen to touch the paper. It's that kind of a problem. So it's more of a neurological problem. You have a pathway from your brain to your body that sends this message of what you're supposed to do. And somewhere along the way, that message gets jumbled up. And in his case, that pathway is kind of rather fried and non-existent. So I don't think it's going to happen. But the pursuit continues. We got him going left-handed. And you know what? Part of the thing you have to do as a teacher is you have to always try to find a way. You have to always make sure, no matter what, you accept responsibility. That's the most important thing. Because in my life, I've had a lot of students. But you know what? I've never had a bad student. They've all just been students. So I've enjoyed talking to you guys today. I hope you have a great show, and thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Hank, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending the Hank Haney session, one of the top golf instructors in the world. Thanks again, Hank. Appreciate it. I just have one quick announcement. For all the PGA professionals in the audience, you do get one MSR education credit for attending this session, so I just want to make sure that you get scanned by our staff, whether you did that when you came in or when you leave. Next up,